Roshika. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good morning, all my amazing listeners. This is Roshika Ali here again. And this time I've got a marvelous, marvelous guest with me. I have to give her an introduction that she deserves. So, Kimberly Wiefling is a powerhouse in leadership transformation. She's a force of nature who turns struggling managers into inspiring leaders and disconnected groups into high performing, agile teams. With a fearless approach to tackling workplace dysfunction, she helps organizations achieve what seems impossible, but it is merely difficult with her signature work-SHOCK therapy. A master of breakthrough thinking, Kimberly has revolutionized company cultures, drastically reduced turnover, and streamlined innovation pipelines for some of the world's most successful businesses. Kimberly is passionate about building purpose driven organizations, and she envisions a future where only thriving, people first workplaces survive while toxic environments fade away. So, Kimberly, I mean, that is one hell of a mission, isn't it?
Ah, well, I don't expect to do it all by myself, Roshika. I've got a bunch of people who are equally passionate about transforming this planet through the workplaces.
Okay. And, especially, you coming from Silicon Valley and being at, the forefront of the first world innovation and so driven by, capitalist culture and everything. And it is so heartening to see that you want to work for such goals.
Well, I can tell you that if you study the research as I have, because I'm a scientist by background, all of the research shows that if you have a healthy organizational culture with effective leadership, real psychological safety, and trusting teams, you make more money.
Oh,
20% more money,
oh,
more
I like
profit.
that.
So if people were really truly committed to profitability and capitalism, they would not be such jerks in at work.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yes, but it's just so easily forgotten, because they only look at the short term. So, Kimberly, I've got this question for you, and I'm going to show it on the screen as well. I hope it's visible. Uh, can you share a moment when you helped an organization break through a major barrier?
Oh, yes. Well, I work with many global companies, and most of them are headquartered in Japan. And I remember I had 24 people from 10 different countries all in the same workshop. And this was a 6-month program. 5 days, we kicked off impossible projects and we met in Europe. 3 months later, we spent 5 days together in the US working on the projects and leadership and teams. 3 months later, we spent 5 more days finishing the projects. And then the very last day, we presented the work that these teams had done to their executives. Well, the first day they all met, we had the Americans and the Europeans and the Japanese and the other people. They're all standing in different places, not really connecting to each other. And the American comes over, oh, we're just here to help the Japanese, right? And the Japanese are like, and the Europeans are like, so,
Yeah.
but on the last day, when they're all presenting in front of their executives, they were standing there, even with their arms around each other's shoulders. They were like brothers, right? They were like they had grown up together. They had one purpose, one mission, one identity, one shared commitment to this company. I was so amazed by the transformation that could happen between human beings from such different countries by working together on something they were passionate about. And we've repeated that 22 times in the last 17 years with that one company. And it has just been incredible the changes we've seen there. So that's one of my favorite stories. Of course, there's other stories, but that's one that sticks in my brain of, oh my gosh, these people didn't really even like each other. And then they were like they were family, caring about each other and standing there facing against the common enemy of the executives, terrified.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. That's so how do you work your magic? What's the secret?
Oh, so I use research and data about what works based on 30 years of experience with leadership, with teams, with organizational culture. Actually, there's quite a bit of research on what helps people connect meaningfully. There's lots of neuroscience about it. There's tons of research about, what kind of behaviors you need to do in order to be an effective leader that people willingly follow. And there's, of course, Gallup Institute has published lots of research on employee engagement, what makes people really care, not just coming to work to earn money, but coming to work to make a difference, right? So I just use what's proven to work, and I don't just teach it. If you just teach people about chocolate and the chemical formula of chocolate and the history of chocolate, they won't know what chocolate tastes like. I make them eat the chocolate. So we do laboratory experiments where they go in and they practice leadership, they practice teamwork, they practice problem solving and decision making, they practice creating an organizational culture together. So it's that they get to feel what it feels like. And a lot of times they do it wrong in our learning laboratories. So they can go, oh, wait a second. Why did I do that? I know I should do the different way. But at least in our learning laboratory, it's a safe space for them to make mistakes and consider what the heck is going on. So
Yeah.
it is so fun. Whenever one of my friends, my colleagues came for the first time to see how we do our workshop, it's all decorated with rubber chickens and koosh balls and toys and crazy things like that. She just kept walking around the room for like 2 hours saying, this is crazy. This is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it must be so fun and engaging, Kimberly. Okay.
Yeah, well, let me
Now,
say something about that because according to the research, if you have fun, you're 300% more creative. Oh my gosh. So we
oh
have to
yeah.
have fun because it's more creative. So I tell people,
Yeah.
I don't like to have fun, but I have to because of the research.
Yeah, yeah, yes. Now, Kimberly, you talk about the difference between management and leadership. Now, what are the most common mistakes managers make when they're trying to lead?
Well, it's the word itself should tell you something about it. Manage people or lead people. Which one is more appealing to you?
The obviously the leading
I
part.
I know I go all over the world and I ask people, raise your hand if you like to be managed. Nobody raises their hand. And it's been clearly explained in many business articles that management is about planning, organizing, controlling, and correcting. Leadership is about setting a direction that motivates and inspires people and aligning people on that direction and then doing what you need to do to keep them going in that direction, removing obstacles, providing resources. And this is such a difference that people don't understand. Manage schedules, manage budget, manage cows, but don't manage people. Lead
Yeah.
people because people want to willingly follow a leader that has a purpose beyond profit, a mission that matters, that inspires them, that acknowledges them, that appreciates them, that reflects back to them their strengths, and that gives them a chance to learn and grow.
Yeah, yes, certainly. Certainly. Okay, now uh your work shock therapy. It sounds amazing. What makes it so effective in transforming behaviors and mindsets?
So the what work that I do is based on adult learning theory and what really works to help adults change. This was developed long ago by someone called Knowles, Knowles, and he found that if you just tell adults something, they have about, oh, when they first leave the room after you tell them and teach them, they forget about half of it right away. And then about 2 months later, they forget 80% of it. And then a year later, they see you on the streets and they say, I never saw her before in my life. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but basically the data is so clear that just telling people something, they won't remember it. But if you go and you give them an experience that is whole person, not just doing things, but feeling emotions and interacting, interactive is key. Engaging them in some way that catches their interest, focusing on things that are relevant to their lives, to their work, and project based, ideally where you're working on some real project they care about. This has a huge improvement over purely lecture. People remember it, they practice it, and here's the really cool thing. If they decide, oh, I want to change, and they just say, I want to change, 10% chance they're going to do it. But if they write it down, I'm going to change, I'm committed to changing in these ways, 40% chance they will change. But if they form a thinking partner team and they have some buddies to go through this process with, for example, in the 6-month program, we form thinking partner teams. They stay in touch. They meet every month. They reconnect every workshop and they ask each other, what did you do? What happened? What will you do next? And they encourage and support each other. Then they have a 90% chance of changing. So I use adult learning theory and I use the power of thinking partner teams for accountability checkpoints to turn that experience into permanent positive changes in their behavior, their language, how they think and feel.
So, Kimberly, do you do this online as well, or for your workshop, one has to, come to America or move to different places?
Well, before COVID, it was all in person. But
Ah,
during COVID, we turned everything into virtual. And I was quite surprised how exciting you can make a virtual workshop. My friends helped me figure out how we can do things that would be interesting and interactive and engaging. And we used
oh, bunny
whiteboards.
ears.
We used breakout rooms, we used props, and we figured out how to virtualize almost all of our exercises. I personally was surprised what was possible. Now, what we're going back to is some in person as the core, but we're still keeping some virtual when they first meet, an orientation to explain, hey, here's what's coming, get ready, and then follow up, 1 or 2 months later, 3 or 4 months later to do a check in. So it is beyond belief. It is possible to virtualize intense experiences. I never would have believed it was possible, but COVID forced us to find a way.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
whenever COVID happened, I said, there must be diamonds hidden in this dog poop somewhere.
yeah, yeah. Diamonds in the dog poop. Oh my God.
Oh, well, there's
Oh,
always diamonds hidden in there, right? So we found ways to make, what does this make possible that was not otherwise possible?
oh my God. I mean, you must spend a fortune on these things, Kimberly.
Well,
Did,
they're pretty cheap, but on the video
oh,
you cannot tell how cheap they are, right?
oh my God. But they're adorable. They're absolutely adorable.
Thank you. And
Uh,
we do other things like when we're in person, we wear innovation socks for enclosed cognition
oh,
because the way you dress changes how you think and changes how
obviously.
you feel. So we are
Yeah,
using all the science that we can to create a learning laboratory that even
yeah.
subconsciously is influencing people's thoughts and feelings and behaviors.
That's great. That's great. So, Kimberly, like at the risk of sounding, a bit crass and pecuniary, I just wanted to know how much does your your workshop, how much does it cost?
Oh, well, I will tell you, I never let money stop me from doing something that I want to
Okay.
do. And I also would not do anything for money that I wouldn't do for free because I don't
Okay.
want to work. I want to contribute to our world. But our clients, these days, they charge, I guess we charge them about $15,000 a day, or if it's virtual, about $1,500 an hour. Now, I also work for free for nonprofits. I donate my time to professional associations, or I do work for honorariums. I've worked with people in Zambia, for example, virtually, and I didn't charge them any money, right? And they had like a
Oh,
little building with only enough power for the computer, but no lights. And when it got to
yeah,
be dark, they had to go outside so they could still see me. And they had one computer for like 12 people. So
yeah,
it's not like I'm working for money.
yeah,
And if you tell people, hey, there's a really nice, expensive sports car on the street, but it says for sale $20, you'll think something's wrong with it, right? So we need to charge
yeah.
what we're worth so people understand we are not
Stand your
doing
worth.
training. Some of our competitors, they're these really expensive consultants. They charge millions of dollars to come in
Yeah.
and tell you what you're doing wrong. That's like
Mhm.
telling a fat person, eat less, exercise more. Hey, come
Yeah,
on. They know that. The data
yeah,
alone is not going to change anything. So, what we
yeah,
do really changes the exact reality of these companies, including reducing people's quitting. I mean, making the managers into leaders, groups into real teams, so people don't want to quit their boss hole managers.
yeah, yeah. Yes. So that is great. Kimberly, have you done any work in Pakistan?
Not yet, except for the podcast that I do with the Pakistan Rihan School. That's the only
Okay.
thing I've really done with Pakistan. Although Rihan, the guy who founded the Rihan School, was here in the
Yeah.
last couple of weeks, and he came to our home, and we had a reception and welcomed him, and a dozen of his Pakistani colleagues from the Bay Area to our home for a little dinner and a get to know you session. So that was amazing. So
Yeah.
one of these days, I hope so. I did finally go to India and work in India about 2 years ago. Yeah.
Oh, and how was that though? What was the
Oh,
experience like?
oh my gosh. It was unlike anything I had ever experienced. Here I am. It was wonderful in many ways. And then I'm sitting in the car, terrified because there are
Yeah.
goats running alongside. The car has to stop because cows are crossing the road. There
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
wild dogs sitting by the street. And so
Yeah.
I thought, okay, this is a little different than what I'm used to. And then when I
Mm.
walk through the streets and the markets, people kind of bump into you because they have a different concept of personal space, but
Yeah.
everybody was very kind and nice. And here's what I learned. When I saw people driving like this, I thought, you know what? Everyone's honking to help each other, to say, hey, I'm on your right. Oh, I'm passing on your left. They were honking to help each other. In the US, when you're honking to say, get out of my way, you jerk. So I was impressed by how, without command and control, they worked together to achieve what they needed to achieve together. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I mean it's so good to see you putting such a good light on it. But believe me, they're not honking to help each other. They
Oh,
are,
no, really? Oh, no.
yeah,
No,
they
I'm
are,
so disappointed.
yeah, and oh well, when you come to Pakistan, you'll see more of that. Yeah,
Okay. Well, I've also worked in Bangkok where I make
oh,
sure I do not ever take a motorcycle taxi, and I
oh,
never cross the street unless there's at least 5 or 10 other people because the traffic
ah,
is so wild. I think,
I
okay, they're not going to
know.
run over all of us. Okay, we can all go
Yeah.
together. But the
Oh,
food
great.
is so wonderful. The people are so kind. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We all have our little quirks. Okay, Kimberly, our next, yeah. You've worked with diverse global teams. And what are the key challenges in cross-cultural leadership? And how can leaders navigate them?
Well, I think you have to understand that there are some things that look very different between the cultures, like, for instance, the language. But really, with the tools we have now, the AI tools, the Google Translate, the DeepL, the other tools we have, language is not a huge barrier. You can take a picture of words and turn them into whatever language you want. You can have a conversation translated in real time as you talk with someone from a different language. So you can get over the language barriers. I think the most important thing is to create in each person an appreciation that the other person's culture is interesting and that they show interest in it and show appreciation of it. Not to say, oh, that's different and that's wrong. No, we have to be open to the possibility that what's different could be fascinating and just as good or maybe better than what we're used to. So, sincere appreciation, sincere interest are key, and that's what we try to create in our workshop, learning lab experimental areas. Also, what we need to do is to create trust. And how can you create trust in people? Well, they have to figure out what do they share in common. Because if you have nothing in common with somebody, you may not trust them very easily. But if you share your life story, there's one exercise we do where people draw their life history on just one graph, and then they spend 3 or 4 minutes telling the other person the story of their lives. And after that, they hang them all up on the wall, and people go up there and go, oh my gosh, all of our life story journey lines look very similar, ups and downs. And, there's been tough times for everybody, and everyone's story has some peaks and some valleys. And once they realize they have so much in common, it is much easier to get them interested in facing in a unified direction to transform their team and their company. So building trust, building psychological safety, figuring out how to communicate across those cultural barriers and show real interest and appreciation for the differences.
That's amazing, Kimberly. I'm sure you are just a marvelous. Oh my God. Oh, that's
Can we
so
make
cool.
it
I mean,
fun? Remember, did I tell you we made it fun?
oh yeah. I can see how much fun. I can see. That's
Look at,
great.
when people have fun together and when they eat together, they start to like each other, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
animals in the jungle that eat together don't kill each other.
Yeah, you're right there. Yeah. Okay. Kimberly, now my next question is, employee engagement is a major issue.
Mm.
And what are the top three things organizations can do to turn disengaged employees into high performing teams?
Well, first of all, everybody in the organization needs to own their contribution to the things that aren't working and not just blame somebody above them. If
Mm,
everybody's just saying, well, yeah, I want to fix it, but it's not my fault, it's my manager's fault. And then the managers
mm,
blame the executives blame, the
mm,
president blames CEO. So if we can just say, look, let's all admit it. We are co-creating this organizational culture. We are all contributing to whether we or other people are engaged at work or not. So you have to get everybody to own it, not just say, it's your fault. And then the couple of things that you can do, the number one in the world that's the most underutilized is a simple tool called appreciation. If you sincerely appreciate that other person by telling them something, let me give you an example. This is using the what, how, why, and who based on how you treated me for this interview. You organized the interview, and you sent me a reminder saying, hey, is it still good? And you sent me the link 15 minutes before we started just to check in. So organized. And I think it's because you wanted me to know that you were caring about the interview, that this was important, and you were doing proper planning because you appreciated my time. And you are just such an incredibly respectful person and so capable and competent. I'm so impressed because, trust me, I've done dozens of interviews on podcasts with my Pakistani colleagues, and that is not how it always goes.
Well, Kimberly, you have to give us, we're all, a little bit different, but there is a Pakistani way of doing things as well. You
Okay,
know,
I will learn more about it, and someday when I come to Pakistan, I will understand it better.
and we must meet up when you do.
Yes,
We
or
must,
come to the
yeah.
Silicon Valley. I mean, here we are in
Oh,
the San Francisco Bay Area. Apple and Facebook and Google are here. Come on.
Yeah. That will be that's a dream, really.
Yeah,
I'd love to. Yeah.
that would be so fun.
Okay. Yeah. Kimberly, many leaders struggle with accountability. And what strategies do you recommend for building accountability within leadership teams? Now, appreciation, I get that, but
Mhm.
there has to be some accountability, like the buck has to stop somewhere.
Haha, yes.
Yeah.
Well, interesting thing is if you set the goals for someone else, how much do
Mm,
they really buy into it? But if you ask them, hey, here's what our team needs to achieve, and here's the big vision we have, how would you like to contribute to that? And where do you think you can add your strengths? And you get them to create or co create the plan, and then they decide what they're going to do. Then you can hold them accountable. If you tell someone what to do, they'll be like, hey, it's not my fault. You told me, but I couldn't. So
mm,
accountability starts with co-creation of a shared
mm.
vision, a shared purpose, and then a shared plan of how we're all going to contribute to achieving that shared outcome. If you let people contribute to the plan and hold themselves accountable, it will be much easier. Plus, you go to them and ask them, what am I doing that's making it harder for you to fulfill your commitments? And sometimes they'll surprise you and they'll tell you, yeah, I need this and you didn't provide it to me. And then you're like, whoops. So, interestingly enough, it takes us to acknowledge that we might be contributing to our team members not being able to fulfill their commitments. So, holding ourselves and each other accountable rather than the manager holding the team members accountable is my recommendation.
Yes, certainly. And we should all learn from this. Now, our time is nearly up. I would just like you to just give us one piece of advice. You know, what one piece of advice would you give to a struggling leader who wants to inspire their team?
Well, first of all, keep hope alive. Don't give up. Hope is a strategy, optimism is a strategy. And second, if you ask for help, if you show vulnerability, that will tremendously increase your people's trust in you. So if you're struggling and you feel like, I don't know what to do or how to do it, you can go to your people and say, hey, look, I really want to be this kind of leader. I'm struggling right now. I need some advice. What should I start doing? What should I stop doing? What should I do more? What should I do less? What should I continue? It's called a feedback starfish. And you go and ask your people to give you some help. And then, first of all, they will like you more because when people help you, they start to like you. And also, they will respect you more because you show that you are also sometimes not perfect and you're vulnerable. And then they will feel safer coming to you when they're making some mistakes or they're struggling. So it's all good. The number one way for a leader to build trust with their people is to make themselves vulnerable. And what better way than to ask for their help and advice?
That words of wisdom indeed. And thank you so much, Kimberly, for giving me so much of your precious time and for teaching us so much. Oh my God, we've got another topic. Oh, like I need to do this. I need to get these props on.
Yes. Go on Amazon and type in crazy sunglasses. Yes.
Okay, all right. So thank you so much. And all my viewers and listeners, I hope you've had as great a time as I've had with Kimberly. And I'm looking forward to Kimberly connecting with us in Pakistan or me going to the Bay Area,
Yes.
whichever comes first. All right. Thank you so much. This brings me to the end of my podcast. And thank you once again, Kimberly, for being my amazing guest.
Truly my pleasure.